Salams from the People's Dispatch studios in New Delhi. I'm Siddhantani and you're watching Daily Debrief, your primer on some of the top international stories of the day. Today we're talking about a historic election in Honduras. We're talking about the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. We're talking about Twitter's new CEO, and of course we are celebrating the creation of the world's newest republic. First up, Honduras. After 12 years of being governed by the neoliberal policies of the ruling National Party, the people of Honduras are set to receive their first woman president and a return to the left. Xiomara Castro, whose husband was deposed in a 2009 coup backed by Honduran elite and the United States, has promised to form a government based on ideas of peace, justice and reconciliation. We've been talking about Honduras a fair bit during and around the November 28 elections, and we begin today's show with a report from my colleague Zoe Alexandra on why this historic election is of significant value to the rest of the world.
It is November 30th and the votes are still being counted in Honduras, but all signs would point to a victory for the left-wing candidate Xiomara Castro, who is set to be the first female president of Honduras. These elections saw her run against several candidates, but the most prominent was Nazarias Fura of the far-right National Party. The National Party had been in government for 12 years since the 2009 coup d'etat in Honduras and had really put into motion a process of neoliberalism, of militarizing the country, of concessioning off key territories and resources to transnational companies and local companies, and really cemented a process of backwardness in Honduras in terms of rights, in terms of liberties of the people. This period also saw mass migration out of the country because of these same socioeconomic conditions that were faced by the people. Today, Honduras has over 70% of the population living in poverty. So now with the victory of Xiomara Castro, people are very hopeful that this will set a new change, a new cycle in Honduras. There's hope that people won't have to migrate out of the country. There's hope that there will be education, healthcare, and other basic needs met by this new government. In terms of confirmation of the Congress, people are still waiting for the results from the CNE. There are some indicators so far that there's a very strong position of the opposition alliance, which is composed of the Libre Party, the Liberty and Refoundation Party, as well as Humane Honduras, and other parties, which includes an anti-corruption party and others. We've been on the ground for the past week, of course, covering this, speaking to people, movement analysis, movement leaders, and they've all emphasized the importance of these elections as one step in recovering democracy in Honduras, but that so many other steps remain. The institutionality of the country has really been decimated over the last 12 years, beginning with the coup, with the elections in 2013. There was also widespread electoral fraud. Of course, 2017 saw some of the most outrageous fraud, which, international bodies even mentioned and condemned as fraud, but then the United States legitimized these elections. So this is one step in recovering this democratic institutions, in recovering kind of the faith and trust of the Honduran people, but it is a long road ahead to rebuild the public sector, to rebuild public education, healthcare, and so many other crucial things that Hondurans need in this time.
Every year since 1978, on or around November 29th, the United Nations marks the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. The World Body's Secretary General Antonio Guterres called upon the international community to reaffirm its commitment to the people of Palestine in building their future. I quote, "The situation in the occupied Palestinian territory remains a challenge to international peace and security," Guterres tweeted on Sunday. On Palestine Day, let's reaffirm commitment to the Palestinian people in their quest to achieve their rights and build a future of peace and dignity for both Palestinians and Israelis. Globetrotter's chief correspondent Vijay Prashad spoke to the legendary Roger Waters on Palestine and the vitality of global solidarity with the struggles of her people.
Their attacks on anybody who tries to redress the balance in terms of human rights or the freedom of the indigenous people or anything else is met with this kind of nonsense. what was I saying? My reaction was I started posting tweets that went, "Hey, Israel, leave the Sikhs alone," quoting my own song from 1978 or 79 or whenever. So the response to it has to be loud, it has to be vigorous, and it has to be united, and it is. People are flabbergasted and disgusted in equal measure by these pronouncements. Obviously, none of these organizations have anything to do with terror or terrorizing people in order to achieve a political end. There is a lot of terrorism, but it almost always comes from the Israeli side of the argument. It is certainly an act of terrorism to drop a 2,000-ton bomb on somebody's apartment building or family home. It is much harder today for the Israelis to get away with this nonsense of calling, great, wonderful human rights organizations working for the benefit of human beings, whether they're Palestinian or Israeli or English or American or anywhere. It's much harder for them to smear such organizations and such people than it was in 2012. So we are making progress. So good for you, everybody who's fighting back against this. You are winning this conversation because you are right and they are wrong. And that is extremely important. In 2012, which is only 9 years ago, you could not use the word apartheid in a conversation about Israel and Palestine or about Israel and Israeli policy. Well, now you cannot have a conversation that is meaningful in any way without using the word apartheid. And they use it all the time to deny it, just as much as we on the side of human rights do. As I've always said, my platform is tiny. It's the 1948 Paris Declaration of Human Rights and those 30 articles. That is what I believe in. That is what all of those organizations that the Israelis are trying to accuse of being terrorist organized, that's what they believe in, all of them. That is their platform. I stand on the same platform they do. The Israeli government and most of the Israeli people, maybe 90%, don't believe in that platform. They don't give a shit about human rights. In fact, they were rather, the whole question about human rights didn't exist at all, because that is not the world emotionally, philosophically that they live in, politically that they live in. Well, we do. And it's a world that we, the peoples of the nations of this tiny planet, want to see develop in the future. Otherwise, we may lose this planet, lose this place that we live on, unless these philosophical notions are generally accepted by our leaders as well as us. But we have to make a lot of noise and we have to stand together. I've seen odd sectarian things happening in this movement that really worry me. Oh, you can support me, but you mustn't support these people who are also working for Palestine because they're communists. How dare you accuse our brothers in this fight, or some of them, of being communists, and in consequence, we shouldn't sign their petitions, or we shouldn't. You sound like Joe McCarthy. What's wrong with communism anyway? Oh, well, blah, 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 Joe Stalin. No. The basic idea of communism is politically sound, and it's soundly a humane idea. Well, we all know what it is. Well, they don't. Well, maybe we don't all know what it is because we all haven't read Marx and we don't all understand it. We just think, oh, they're authoritarian and they're this and that. We have to act together. We cannot be looking at our brothers and sisters and turning our noses up because they might be a different religion or a different sect or a different political belief than us. We have to stand together on this platform, human rights.
Right, we're talking about Twitter now, and 37-year-old technologist Parag Agarwal has been named CEO, replacing co-founder Jack Dorsey after a 4-year stint as Chief Technical Officer of the struggling social media platform, during which he was supervising Twitter's pursuit of blockchain and other decentralized technologies. My colleague Prashant spoke to our resident tech guru, Bapa Sinha, on the implications of this move to appoint a low-key technocrat to a role that has a far wider scope.
Bappa, thank you so much for joining us. So, of course, when a company like, when such a development takes place in a company like Twitter, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate around it. But before we get into some of the most substantive issues, is this a really surprising decision considering that Jack Dorsey is just 45 years old, he was the head of a major company, but stepping down as a CEO?
It was surprising in the sense that it was out of the blue, right? Nobody knew that he was going to do it yesterday. And I think the Twitter stock had to be, they had to block the stock trading for the rest of the day when this happened. So it was not a planned, pre-announced thing. But in terms of whether it was surprising that Jack Dorsey would step down, there have been calls for him to step down for a while now, right? And the Jack Dorsey is also the CEO of another company, another big company called Square, which is a digital payments company. And people have been saying that he was more focused on Square, and with Twitter he had taken a backseat and wasn't actively managing Twitter. So some of his investors were asking for him to step down, and so that those stories have been around for the last 1 or 2 years. So that's not a surprise.
Right. In this context, of course, Twitter, a very controversial company, has been one of the big tech companies in the world that has been facing a lot of scrutiny, etc., etc. So could you also maybe take us through, at this point of time, what are the kind of challenges in the realm of, say, in the digital world that a company like Twitter is facing?
Right. So Twitter, the most famous thing about Twitter happened when they banned Trump, the U.S. president, at the beginning of around, I think, when there was a Capitol insurrection. So they banned Trump, and that was a big deal because he was the president of the US, and so that raised bigger issues. Well, that raised issues from both sides, right? So it raised free speech issues. So can a corporation effectively shut the speech of public figures or of anybody in society, right? Because these corporations have now become so large that they have become these kind of virtual. They have become common spaces, right? That's where people go and interact, and that's where people discuss everything, including politics and like the topics which are important. And so then if a public corporation takes it upon itself to shut down some points of view, there is a problem. That's one view. The other view is that these social media companies have actually been very lax in coming down on hate speech and fake news, so that also is a problem, right? And it's true about all companies, and Twitter, I suppose, in order to kind of address some of these issues, they ended up banning Trump, but like I said, that raised yet another set of issues.
Right. Interesting in this context, of course, there's been quite a bit of debate about what you mentioned earlier, which is that one of the shareholders of Twitter, and which was strongly behind the move to push out Jack Dorsey, actually has some political links. So could you maybe talk about that as well?
Right. So there is a company called Elliott Management, which is a large shareholder in Twitter, and there it's I think the person who runs Elliott Management is a person called Paul Singer, who has close ties with the Republican Party and has Trump. He was initially opposed to Trump, but then made up with Trump, and Trump famously said that now they're a team. And so Paul Singer has been very open that that he wants Dorsey out of Twitter. Now, people have speculated that could be because of political reasons, but I mean, Paul Singer hasn't said anything about Jack Dorsey's politics, so we can take it at that, right? Like I said, there were concerns about Jack Dorsey being a CEO of two companies. So is that the reason? Is politics the reason? I mean, we can only speculate.
Right. And of course, finally, one important question for a lot of people watching the tech and business space is that, is there, a long-term potential for a company like Twitter to continue being one of these behemoths, because they have faced a lot of crisis in recent times. So do you also see this company as one which is sort of growing and expanding in the long term?
So Twitter clearly is not, right? So Twitter is not in the league of the big five, right? So Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft. So Twitter is not in that league, and and whether it will ever be in that league, we don't know, right? I mean, clearly, it probably missed the bus when when all these social media companies grew exponentially, right? Now, do you see Twitter like replacing one of these big fives to become another Facebook? It's Twitter's Twitter's base is slightly different from, and its positioning is different from Facebook, right? So the virality of Facebook comes from you getting to meet your friends and family and sharing their pictures and later, of course, hate news and fake news. Twitter is more for media, for people who are already in the public domain, and their views. It's a platform for them to put their views out. So in a way, it's a different positioning. So I don't see Twitter ever becoming Facebook, and its numbers have also plateaued, right? So it's not going to be the top five, but it's still an important company, right? I mean, clearly different political parties in different countries use Twitter for political messaging and for shaping public opinion. So it'll continue to remain an important company.
Thank you so much, Baba.
And finally, in a segment we like to call Anyone But England, we have news from Barbados. 400 years after the Caribbean island was colonized by the British, it has parted ways with the monarchy and become the world's newest republic. We the people must give Republic Barbados its spirit and its substance, Sandra Mason, the island's first president, said. She continued, we must shape its future. We are each other's and our nation's keepers. We the people are Barbados. Barbados cast the removal of Elizabeth II, who is still queen of 15 other realms, including the UK, Australia, Canada and Jamaica, as a way to finally break with the demons of its colonial past. We leave you with these images of celebrations from Bridgetown.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Every day is Thanksgiving, for every day I am living. Hallelujah.
There could be no more significant political act than what we have done in constituting ourselves as a republic. And a lot of people have asked, what really is a republic? Republic is a state in which power is held by the people and for the people through their democratic representatives. And we have now decided to abandon the monarchical system where the Queen of England, I'm not going to call her Her Majesty out of respect, but she's no longer Her Majesty for us anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellency, the Most Honorable Dame Sandra Prunella Mason, President of Barbados. With firm resolve and in one voice, from this day and forever, declare Barbados a parliamentary republic.